A legal victory for the chaplain of the House of Representatives in federal appeals court. Long story short, prayer wins. Joining us now to talk about these things on this Good Friday, Chris Scalia, author of a new book on faith, Lessons from an American Believer, about his father, the late Justice Antonin Scalia, and his faith. Thanks for being with us, Chris.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Okay, I want to ask you, too, about something that came out today, a Pew poll that talks about people, I think it was Gallup, talking about the faith in this country, and they say that church membership in the U.S. has plummeted over the past 20 years. Percentage of U.S. adults who belong to a church or other religious institution has plunged by 20 percentage points over the past two decades, hitting a low of 50% last year. Why do you think there's less of an involvement of religion in our society right now?
I'm sure there are all sorts of factors. I don't think I'm qualified to identify any single one, but my hunch is that one of the factors, and something I think my father would have pointed to, is that the Supreme Court over the last 50 years has made it more difficult for Americans to express religious beliefs in public. So, for example, invocations at high school graduation or high school ceremonies, situations like the one that the chaplain, I mean, that went well for the chaplain, but in a lot of other instances like that, the Supreme Court and other courts rule against expressions of faith because they believe it's an establishment of religion that contradicts the Constitution. And my father often argued that's not what the First Amendment meant, and the founders actually encouraged expressions of religious faith because they believed religious faith was an important source of morality for the American people, any people, and that sort of morality was important for the success of a democracy.
Yeah, and the book is an interesting collection of speeches, of opinions, remembrances of your father. One of the things that you included in the book is from a dissent that he wrote. He said, this is from your father: those who wrote the Constitution believed that morality was essential to the well-being of society, and that encouragement of religion was the best way to foster morality. You know, a lot of folks today would say they're just not buying that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, it's certainly not the case that only religious people are moral people. That's not the case. But for many people, the founders believed it, and I think a lot of people believe it today. Religion is a very good source of virtue. It reminds people of what's important, it lays out important guides for how to treat other people, how to live your own life, and things like that. And without that sort of regular church going, it's harder to find that sort of moral foundation. That's why the founders encouraged religious expression in public. My father again and again pointed out that, presidents from the beginning have delivered prayers, they've thanked God, and things like that. So clearly that sort of religious expression, not proselytizing for a specific denomination, but religion has generally been preferred over non-religion in this country. And my father was upset that he saw the court going a different direction.
Justice Thomas, of course, one of his closest friends on the court, and in life, he writes in the foreword to the book, he says this: Nino's faith, and people may not know that's what people called your father, Nino. Nino's faith fueled a deep commitment to his judicial oath and the duties and obligations it entailed. That is what I saw on a day-to-day basis. His Catholic faith helped him to understand that he had no right or license to exceed his judicial authority or to abdicate his responsibilities. It imposed a constant judicial modesty or humility. And you and I have talked about this. There are people who, we've seen nominees come up before the Senate and be questioned about the religious faith and whether it would taint or impede their ability to actually be a fair judge.
My father often pointed to the example of abortion, and he got this kind of assumption from his detractors and his supporters. In the case of abortion, he was often afraid that they thought he voted against, as he did in abortion cases, because he was Catholic and abortion is against Catholic teaching. And he said, if that's what you think, I'm sorry, you're wrong. I think Roe v. Wade is bad law because there's clearly no guarantee for abortion in the Constitution. If the Constitution made a clear guarantee for abortion, I would have to rule otherwise, despite what my religious beliefs are. He was a conservative justice, which means that he interpreted the Constitution according to its original public meaning and didn't try to impose his own policy preferences or religious beliefs on the cases.
Well, it's an interesting book, and so many of his words and remembrances. So congratulations on that.
Thank you very much,
and very
Shannon.
fitting for us this Holy Week to have
Absolutely.
you.
Thanks for having me on tonight.